No role plays, no conference calls, no BS. Chris and Lorenzo share 4 decades of combined experience to help you become a more effective leader. This is Hacking Your Leadership.
Welcome to Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lorenzo.
And welcome to this week's Thoughtful Thursday. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube at Hacking Your Leadership and leave us a review on iTunes. And I know I say this every Thoughtful Thursday, but really leave us a review. You know, the reviews on the podcast platforms, they trickle off over time because they expire. A lot of the companies out there, they will kind of eliminate older reviews or reviews from accounts that go away. You know, if you like and enjoy the show, please leave us a review. If you don't like or enjoy the show, leave us a review. You know, we get a lot of...
Don't do that. Don't do that. No, just email me directly and we'll change the show completely.
They need to be able to do that. We want honest feedback. That's how we get better, how we continue to give good content. But leave us a review for real if you haven't done so ever or in a while. On this week's Thoughtful Thursday, I want to talk about listening. And I want to talk about it specifically in the context of something. I heard a person describe an interaction they had with somebody recently. And the way they described it was though that the person they were talking to seemed to almost stop time for them. Nothing else was going on, even though everything was going on. There were a lot of people around. But in that moment, the person I was speaking to said that they felt like they were the only thing on earth to the person they were talking to. And that it was almost an emotionally moving moment for them because it was completely unexpected. And they felt like everything that they were saying was important to this person they were talking to. Everything that they were saying was relevant. The person asked questions that were relevant, but didn't interrupt ever. It was the way they described it was something that made me walk away from the interaction thinking, you know what, I need to get better at that. Like no matter what it is I think I'm good at when it comes to this isn't just active listening. Active listening is like, 101 level. This is something that is above and beyond that. And I don't think a lot of people really have that down pat, but the people who do, they just have the ability to move mountains when it comes to their relationships. Do you know people like this, Lorenzo?
Yeah, no, I've experienced the same. I think that there are certain people, and I would say that whether they're leader by title or whether they have an influence, a positive influence over people, they just have that ability to be truly, truly in the moment. And we talk about being in the moment all the time, but somebody who, in this day and age with so many things going on and constantly people grabbing for our attention and distractions and phones going off and text messages and social media, like we have so many things that vie for our attention. When you meet somebody or talk to somebody that almost completely gives you their full attention in the moment and is like looking at you and paying attention clearly and absorbing what you're sharing, that almost becomes like the exception in this day and age. And I think that there have definitely been leaders and people that I've met in my life where they do, and they make that happen. They make it feel as if they are giving you every bit of their attention. And I think I like that you called it out, that it's different. It's different than active listening to, it's kind of like the next level up to a degree. I think there's some factors that make that come to life. But I have definitely experienced that as a person with another leader, another person. And from time to time, I've been given that feedback where somebody was just like, I really appreciated the time that we had. And I can't believe it was 30 minutes or 45 minutes. It felt like, like it was like so short, but because the interaction was so, I think healthy and fun and there were no distractions. So I think that in many, many leaders, like I think we all have the ability to do this. I just think that maybe we don't do it as often as we should, or to your point, we have to practice to make this a thing that we can completely give our time and attention to people in the moments that really, really require it.
Right. I think you hear this a lot in romantic relationships where you have one person in the relationship says that the other one isn't listening to what they're saying. They're just trying to solve the problem. And just trying to solve the problem, maybe they don't want to have the problem solved. They just want to have a shoulder to cry on. This type of interaction is this perfect threading of the needle between the two things, because you're not talking about a romantic relationship, you're talking about a professional relationship in these situations. And so just sitting there and listening and validating what a person is saying, that's the active listening piece. And that is important. Being able to interject with solutions or having it be a dialogue or conversation, that's the solving element of it. The people who do this well, they do both things in the interaction, but they know when it's the time for one versus when it's the time for the other. They know when it's time to listen and validate, and they know when it's time to interject with a relevant question or a question that helps further the conversation without derailing the conversation or hijacking it and making it about themselves. The questions they ask lead the person to believe, oh my gosh, this person is actually listening to what I'm having to say right now, not just nodding along so that I feel validated. They actually heard what I said, because this question about it, or this pushback, or this whatever it is that I'm getting back from them is relevant to what I'm saying. It's not just kind of fluff. And a person who does this really well, they know when it is time to just shut their mouth and listen and validate, and when it's time to interject with a solution. So it's not a all one versus all the other thing. It is this kind of this dance that occurs, and when you do it well, it feels like a dance. It feels like two people are kind of working together. There's no feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm talking to somebody who's significantly above me. I'm talking to somebody who has brought themselves to my level. We're eye to eye on something. And what that does for a person's commitment to you as a leader, commitment to your priorities, I think it almost can't be quantified, because it moves the needle so much on those things. So what I'll ask you, Lorenzo, is, have you ever had an interaction with somebody where you walked away from that interaction thinking, you know what, I could have done better when it comes to validating this person or making them feel like I was truly present in the moment? Maybe something happened and I got taken out of the moment, and I got lost, and I feel like the interaction didn't go well because of it, and now I need to go fix it. So I want to ask you that, but first I want to get a word from one of our sponsors. All right, Lorenzo, when did an interaction not necessarily go as well as you would have hoped because of, kind of a lack of doing this, and you had to fix it?
Well, first, I'm glad that you're asking me and not the thousands of people that I've probably done this to.
Yeah, right.
Yes, absolutely. There have definitely been times when something is distracting. There's something else that's going on. There's a conversation that I'm in where it's not my full attention for whatever the reasons are. And again, I'm not making excuses for it, but it definitely has happened. And there have been times when it's like, you have a conversation with somebody, and then 10 minutes later, you're like, okay, what exactly did they ask me for? Like, because not even just being distracted by things like a phone or, technology or anything like that at all, but even just being kind of cluttered right now in the brain for whatever the reason is. Like there might be other things that I'm considering for later on in the day, things that I got to get done, stuff that it has a priority, but maybe I made this commitment to have this conversation, but really, it's tough for me to concentrate and be in the conversation. It has definitely happened. There have definitely been times when I've had to follow back up with the person and say, hey, first, let me just apologize. I know we had this conversation. I feel like I was distracted. I'm sure I came across as if I was distracted. Sometimes they didn't feel that way. Sometimes I guess I was better at it than I thought I was. But there are definitely other times where somebody said, yeah, you definitely felt like you were a little bit checked out. So I have fully had those types of things happen to me. I think what I've learned is the importance, and I think it's part of it is just the journaling and the writing of things down, and the closing of computers, and the putting in the pocket, putting my phone in my pocket. There are certain things that I've now done and built into some of my behaviors that kind of reset my brain and remove distractions as much as possible in those moments, especially when it's like a one-to-one conversation or an interview, or times when it's like this entire time is built around the connection with this person. I think that those are moments when I for sure feel that I've gotten better at it. Definitely not, great every single time. Definitely have work to do. But I feel good about some of the progress that I've made in those spaces. And I think that it's something that for many of us, it's a constant work in progress.
Right. I completely agree with that. I think where a lot of leaders get this wrong is in a desire to be available and they might be physically available, but mentally they're not there in the moment, but they say yes anyway. So they get asked for time by somebody and they go, of course I'm available to you. Let me be available to you. But whatever they just heard previously or whatever they spent the last 15 or 30 minutes on is still really heavily in their brain. It's taken up a lot of real estate there for the moment. And they don't have the ability to be available right now. And what they should say is, you know what, I am available today, but can I get back to you in an hour? Or in 30 minutes or whatever it is, so that you can center yourself around this. It's this kind of knee-jerk, yeah, I want to be available, but you're not really available. And it's okay to say no. The damage that is done by being available when you're not really mentally there is more than the zero damage that would be done by just saying, hey, can we have this conversation in 30 minutes or in an hour when you can really be there? And when you are inserting yourself as a leader into these kind of situations where it's your job to kind of go in and meet new people or talk to people that you haven't met before, you better be there. I mean, this is no different than not taking your phone with you to the dinner table because you don't have the ability to put it down. I know leaders who, when they are going to meet new people, they leave their phone in the car. They don't even want to. They don't even want to know because they know their own limitations. That just feeling it in their pocket is going to do something eventually, and they're going to end up rubbing somebody the wrong way or not being in the moment. So take the steps that you need in order to make sure you're in the moment when it's something that you can control, and ask for the time that you need when you need the time, because sometimes you need the time.
Absolutely. And with that, it brings us to the end of this episode. This is Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Lorenzo.
And I'm Chris.
And have a great day.